President Joe Biden referred to Vice President Kamala Harris as the president. Will Vice President Kamala Harris soon be promoted to President Kamala Harris? What's going on here? Deteriorating conditions in South America caused by the pandemic and escalating due to the Delta and Omicron variant have led to a surge in migrants crossing into the United States borders. What's going on with that? Could we possibly see some additional stimulus as a result of this? Potentially millions of unvaccinated working class Americans could find themselves out of work if the recent Supreme Court proceeding prevails. How could these decisions possibly impact your employment? Definitely stick around for that. Biden's official words on the Build Back Better bill, an update on the child tax credits, and other stimulus in this package. New Fed rate hikes and what they mean for you and your wallet. And lastly, a brand new stimulus push for a COVID relief package. What stimulus could we actually get out of this? Stay tuned to find out. Hello and welcome to our YouTube fam. Hey guys, it's Ron here with the latest news on your stimulus package updates, timelines, developments, along with the best US news on inflation and online businesses that could possibly take you from $0 to $1,000 just like that. So go ahead and join the financial freedom family and hit that subscribe button now. Also tap that notification bell so you're notified as soon as I release new videos and updates. Let's go ahead and get started. President Biden mistakenly promoted his vice president in a Friday speech touting, quote, President Kamala Harris before claiming that humans would be able to travel commercially at 15 times the speed of a bullet in 20 years. Quote, all kidding aside, of course, President Harris is a proud Howard alum, end quote. This is what Biden said during the graduation remarks at South Carolina State University, repeating a gaffe that he's made at least twice before, most recently in March. It says here the misspeak came as Democrats, including Harris and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, vie to replace Biden, 79 years old, if he chooses not to seek a second term in 2024. Biden says that he plans to run again, but he's already the oldest president ever, and many Democrats don't believe he will run again, as polls find broad concern about his mental acuity. Now, I wonder if this is a Freudian slip. Could Vice President Kamala Harris possibly replace President Biden during his active term? Could Vice President Kamala Harris actually run for presidency come 2024? I'd love to hear from you guys on this. What do you guys think is going to happen? November border arrests are up 5% after trending downward in recent months. It says here U.S. Customs and Border Protection made 173,000 arrests in November, a 5% jump from the previous month, and the first increase since the summer when apprehensions began to drop, according to newly released data. Over the course of the year, the Biden administration has wrestled with the unprecedented numbers of migrants entering into the U.S. soil. Early on, the administration faced an influx of children that overwhelmed resources and were later caught off guard by thousands of migrants arriving within days to the unprepared region of Del Rio, Texas. Now, since July, when encounters peaked at 213,000 apprehensions along the U.S.-Mexico border began to dip, though they have remained high compared with previous years. Quote, the CBP's, also known as the Customs Border Protection, November monthly operational update reflects an incredible amount of work on behalf of the American people to keep dangerous drugs and products out of our communities, to facilitate travel and billions of dollars in trade, and to maintain security along our borders. The virus-related pandemic exacerbated deteriorating conditions in Central and South America, prompting people to journey north. Authorities in South America have been monitoring the increased movement of migrants into the regions for months. Quote, on one hand, the pandemic and the accompanying recessions left many people in the Latin American middle class a lot worse off. Well, same thing's happening here. A lot of people are worse off financially ever since the pandemic. It's not just Latin America. And people who would not have considered migrating have decided it's a useful option. Quote, at the same time, the ease of crossing the border has made some people who have ties to the U.S. decide it's time to come now if they're going to make it. I think both these things are true at the same time, end quote. The Biden administration officials have been in discussions with regional partners to try and stem the flow. Last month, then Acting Commissioner Troy Miller led a CBP delegation to Panama, according to the agency, in an effort to strengthen coordination against irregular migration and transnational organized crime. Biden has previously denounced the policy, but a lower court order required its revival earlier this year. The Department of Homeland Homeland Security in October reissued a memo terminating the policy and again outlined the reasons for its termination. Well, sounds like the border situation is not getting any better. In fact, it's actually getting worse. The looming threat of the Omicron wave triggers early pandemic deja vu. When drug companies here in the United States first created the pandemic-related vaccines in the US, many people, including myself, thought we were clearly out of the woods and that we would shortly have this pandemic as well as the millions of cases that have been surfacing ultimately be under control. However, we were pretty much all wrong about that, at least by and large. President Biden himself echoed the optimism that the US may be turning a corner. Quote, "Today we're closer than ever to declaring our independence from a deadly virus. That's not to say that the battle against the pandemic is over. We've got a lot more work to do." This is what he said back in July. Quote, "It no longer paralyzes our nation, and it is within our power to make sure it never does again," he added. Fast forward to today, it almost looks like we're going backwards in time. In the course of just a few weeks, this month, the Omicron variant and a steep rise in US cases have triggered pandemic-related restrictions reminiscent of the early part of the outbreak. Professional sports leagues have begun postponing games, some schools have started transitioning to remote learning, and city officials have acknowledged they were reconsidering implementing prior pandemic protocols such as mask mandates. Current situation in the US also prompted concern from health experts. "You know, I'm extraordinarily worried." This is from Lawrence Gostin, Facility Director of the O'Neill Institute for National and Global Health Law and Professor of Global Health Law at Georgetown University Law Center. Quote, "I've always thought that there would be surges and waves, but the overall arc would be toward containing the virus and getting back to normal. And now that Omicron is here, I'm not so sure about that," Gostin said. "And I think for the foreseeable future, we're going to have a fairly rough ride with the variant." Now guys, what are you guys thinking about this? What do you guys think about this Omicron variant here? Do you think that this is being blown out of proportion? Or do you think we're actually going to be heading toward reinstating mask mandates, possible lockdowns, earlier curfews again, businesses closing early? I'd hate to admit that we might actually be going back to that, but it certainly looks like that might be the case here. Comment down below if you guys are seeing anything like that in your area. Are you hearing about reinstating mask mandates, maybe businesses closing early, bars shutting down early? I would certainly love to hear from you guys. Pfizer, BioNTech, and Israeli researchers have said that Pfizer's boosters appear to provide good protection against the Omicron variant. Gostin said that there's no question that the boosters would be helpful in combating the variant. However, it's a question of how protective the boosters would be against the infections and hospitalizations and how long that protection would last. Quote, "Because a lot of the studies of the boosters have been, in the first few weeks after the booster is given, and whether the third shot immunity will wane is an open question. But our experience is that it will wane, and we don't know how long. We're just really heading into a concerning unknown here." I don't know, this is kind of scary, guys. Medical experts, not to mention the general public as a whole, were really depending on the vaccines to protect us from future outbreaks and, of course, mutations of the virus. But I would love to hear from you guys. Comment down below if you're seeing more people wearing masks again as of late compared to, say, a month or so ago. And the spike in virus cases is not just affecting sports cancellations and postponements. Harvard University announces remote classes for most of January due to the rapid rise in Omicron cases. Howard University students will be forced to study remotely for most of January due to a, quote, "rapid rise in the pandemic cases," the university announced in a statement on Saturday. According to the announcement, a, quote, "rapid rise in the pandemic cases locally and across the country forced university administrators to make the decision. Quote, "We write to inform you that for the first 3 weeks of January, we will take steps to reduce density on campus by moving much of our learning and work remotely. Please know that we do not take this step lightly. It is prompted by a rapid rise in the pandemic cases locally and across the country, as well as a growing presence of the highly transmissible Omicron variant," the announcement reads. The Harvard University administrators wrote that the decision to shift classes online was made with, quote, "the health and safety of our community as our top priority. Most students will be studying remotely unless they have, quote, authorization from their school to return to campus," according to the announcement, and states that some programs with essential in-person requirements will continue on campus. Quote, "Some programs will continue in person. For example, those with essential in-person laboratory or patient-centered clinical requirements, the announcement states. And guys, of course, this is just Harvard University. However, it's Harvard University. I'm anticipating widespread school shutdowns. If Harvard's taking the step to preemptively shut down for at least the first 3 weeks of January, I would really expect many other schools to do the same. So what we're seeing is sporting events being postponed, canceled, schools shutting down and forcing their staff as well as students to revert back to remote learning. And I've already read up on several businesses doing the exact same thing, reverting back to remote work and reducing the number of days in office. Comment down below if you guys are seeing the same thing. For those of you who are currently going into the office, are you finding that your employers are reverting back to going to remote work? Drop me a quick comment down below, guys. I'd love to hear the status of your situation wherever you are. President Biden delays enforcement of the virus vaccine or test rules for businesses as courts hear legal challenges. This is really getting messy, guys. It says here employees will be given more time to comply with a federal requirement that workers get vaccinated for the pandemic or be regularly tested, the U.S. Department of Labor announced Saturday after a federal appeals court allowed the rule to go forward. Workers who are not fully vaccinated won't have to be regularly tested until February 9th, more than a month after the original January 4th deadline. The department said it's exercising enforcement discretion to, quote, account for any uncertainty that caused by the legal challenges that had blocked the rule. Businesses with at least 100 employees were to have determined the vaccination status of workers and required unvaccinated workers to wear a mask by December 6th. The Labor Department said that it won't issue any penalties before January 10th and will take no action on the testing rules until February 9th, as long as the employer, quote, is exercising reasonable good faith efforts to come into compliance. The agency's announcement arrived hours after Ohio-based U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit reinstated President Joe Biden's requirement late Friday. A 2-to-1 majority of the court ruled that OSHA was likely within its legal authority to implement the, quote, emergency temporary standard requiring vaccines or testing. That decision essentially overturned a ruling in November from Louisiana-based U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, which temporarily blocked the rule and described it as, quote, staggeringly overbroad. Next up, liberals are disappointed after President Biden's first year as president. Progressives are growing restless over the state of Joe Biden's presidency, with some upset that his first year in office was not as transformative for Democrats as they had hoped. And we talked about this a lot, guys. Remember how prior to President Biden taking office, Democrats were touting how they were going to hold the majority in the Senate as well as the House and, of course, the presidency. With that would come the power or the ability to implement and push bills through using the process of the reconciliation card. However, due to opposition from members of Congress such as Joe Manchin as well as Kyrsten Sinema, the power of reconciliation has really been proven to be slightly diluted since, in order to make this happen, due to the fact that it's roughly a 50-50 Senate, 100% of the Democratic Party is needed to be on board in order for the reconciliation process to be effective. Desperate for a shift from the Trump years, liberals who wanted the new president to rewrite the policy playbook are now worried that Biden, burdened by a narrow Senate majority, may not accomplish more sizable changes heading into 2022. The realization has hit some in the party's left flank particularly hard. Quote, Biden has governed all year long like anyone but him is the president. He has refused to throw any punches or posture at all towards the people in his own party who are hindering his agenda, or even to the Republicans. Well, I can certainly say that this sentiment is being reflected in the polls. President Biden's approval rating continues to tank, and it appears that many people's expectations of what Biden as president would do have not quite been met. It says here, many see that the party's narrow advantage in Congress slipping away by the day, adding to Democrats' anxiety that they're running out of time to tackle a large range of issues before losing control of one or both chambers. Progressives who once gave the new president grace period have now grown tired of watching items fall off of the agenda. Quote, on every issue, voting rights, student debt, climate, he lets the bad actors set the terms of the debate, Shelley said. Which brings us to our next update. Kamala Harris lets Charlemagne the God know who the real president is. Vice President Kamala Harris forcefully defends President Joe Biden when recently asked whether or not he or Senator Joe Manchin is the president of the United States, as President Biden's agenda remains stalled in part because of the West Virginia Democrat. Quote, so who is the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President? This is what Charlemagne the God asked Harris on Comedy Central's The God's Honest Truth. Quote, come on, Charlemagne. Come on. It's Joe Biden. This is what Harris said to the late night talk show host. I can't tell sometimes, he retorted. Well, guys, I've read your comments. Many of you guys are saying, hey, isn't President Biden the guy who's in charge? But why does it seem like Joe Manchin is running the show? Well, apparently it's made it to Saturday Night Live as well. Now, hoping to help out is this new push for a brand new COVID relief package from House Democrat Representative Jamal Bowman. In a letter to House Democratic leadership, Bowman laid out what he believes another COVID relief package is necessary. Quote, we now lost 800,000 American lives due to the pandemic, double the number we lost in World War II. This number is shocking and cannot continue to climb without another federal intervention. Our defense budget is $770 billion a year, but we are not doing enough to defend ourselves against a global pandemic that is killing us directly and indirectly through the mental health crisis it has created, end quote. Definitely makes sense to me though, guys. But what do you guys think? In particular, Bowman's asking for some very helpful stimulus in this new relief package that he's proposing. First and foremost, a bereavement fund for children who lost a primary or secondary caregiver due to the pandemic-related reasons. But then he follows it up with the cancellation of federal student loans, cancellation of housing-related debt for the past due rent, as well as mortgage payments. Also, the reinstatement of an eviction moratorium and perhaps foreclosure moratorium and renewed funding in education, among other provisions. But like Bowman said, quote, the pandemic has and will continue to change us for years to come. We need to take action now, and the surest way to do that in Congress is to exercise our power of the purse and direct much-needed funds to our children, families, and communities. Yeah, maybe a debt reset would not be a bad idea to help everybody out. I really do hope our lawmakers are not forgetting that we are still right in the middle of a pandemic right now. But the time is definitely now for the working class families to get some major stimulus for a change. And not just for those who have children. I think everyone needs a helping hand right about now. Now, as our stimulus hero, Senator Bernie Sanders put it, we have to pass the Build Back Better stimulus package now.
I would say to my Republican colleagues and any who is thinking of not voting for this comprehensive legislation, you're going to have a lot of explaining to do. You're going to have to explain to your constituents why you don't have the guts to demand that the wealthiest people and largest corporations in this country start paying their fair share of taxes. You're going to have to explain why you voted against the effort to lower the outrageous cost of prescription drugs. You're going to have to explain why you don't want to expand Medicare to cover dental care, hearing aids. You're going to have to explain why you think we should do nothing to deal with the existential threat of climate change, which obviously impacts every part of this country. You're going to have to explain why you're not wanting to do anything about child care or pre-K. So I hope very much that in the very immediate future, we're going to take two giant steps forward for the American people, and that is, number one, protect every American's right to vote. Number two, pass the most comprehensive legislation to benefit working families in the modern history of this country. Thanks.
Let me know if you guys agree with us on this one here. Drop me a comment, drop me your support in the comments down below. I hope you guys caught all the information in today's stimulus package update as well as daily news update, President Biden's official words on the Build Back Better bill, an update on the child tax credits as well as other stimulus in the package, President Biden referring to Kamala Harris as the president, and lastly, a new stimulus push for a COVID relief package. And of course, if you guys didn't happen to catch all that, you could just watch this video all over again. In fact, you can check out our channel playlist section for all of your stimulus favorites like rent assistance, student loan forgiveness, as well as Social Security. It's all right there for you guys to check out, so you can check that out right after this video. And while you're doing that, I'll be busy working on the next stimulus update for you guys. So as always, I just want to thank you guys so much for watching, and a huge thank you for always lighting up the like button for the holidays. I cannot thank you guys enough, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care. Many of you guys have asked for different ways on how to make extra money through passive income, online businesses, drop shipping, Amazon FBA, affiliate marketing, and remote job opportunities, just to name a few. But for a limited time only, Get your free $50 when you open your new brokerage account with M1 Finance. Guys, I make hundreds of dollars per month in passive income just from my dividend paying stocks. And I get paid passive income from dividends that are paid to me from the stocks that I have on M1 Finance. I opened my M1 Finance account and started buying stocks with only $100. So you don't need a whole lot of money to get started investing, building wealth, and generating passive income for you and your family. Remember guys, you're just one decision and one step away from starting your path toward financial freedom. And these little things add up over time. It's all about consistency. This is one of the easiest ways to make money from home passively. So just hit the link in the description of the video or in the pinned comment down. President Joe Biden referred to Vice President Kamala Harris as the president. Will Vice President Kamala Harris soon be promoted to President Kamala Harris? What's going on here? Deteriorating conditions in South America caused by the pandemic and escalating due to the Delta and Omicron variant have led to a surge in migrants crossing into the United States borders. What's going on with that? Could we possibly see some additional stimulus as a result of this? Potentially millions of unvaccinated working class Americans could find themselves out of work if the recent Supreme Court proceeding prevails. How could these decisions possibly impact your employment? Definitely stick around for that. Biden's official words on the Build Back Better bill, an update on the child tax credits, and other stimulus in this package. New Fed rate hikes and what they mean for you and your wallet. And lastly, a brand new stimulus push for a COVID relief package. What stimulus could we actually get out of this? Stay tuned to find out. Hello and welcome to our YouTube fam. Hey guys, it's Ron here with the latest news on your stimulus package updates, timelines, developments, along with the best US news on inflation and on